Hello, guys. Welcome to the Malaysian Students Podcast. And yeah, right, we're kinda back to the initial state where it's four of us on stage. So today we have our Jinjie,
Hello everyone, I'm Junjie.
Gohao,
It's good to be back.
and Rishi.
Hello, everyone.
In this episode, we're going to talk about examination, which probably is quite terrifying and annoying for some of the candidates, I guess. So, guys, if you are from YouTube, do comment down below what are the three feelings that you have when you face exams. So, to clarify, all four of us are in Form 4, currently studying under the Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia (SPM) syllabus, which is the national curriculum. A disclaimer here. Most of it will be our points of view based on the facts, so it will be an open and honest talk among us. Hope any one of the parties don't get offended. I actually have a question that I'm truly curious about for the past few months or since I met you guys. Like, what is an examination to you? How do you usually view examinations? Jinjie?
Wow, now I know the first time you met me is this guy how he thinks about examination.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
That's when
Yeah,
you know that
examination.
that person is
Genius.
yes, genius and who likes to study one.
No, I'm not genius. Okay.
Uh,
So for me, generally examination of course is something to test ourselves, right? And I think examination is uh how to say a platform or the way to to challenge myself whether I have mastered the knowledges I've learned or whether how I can utilize them in a set of questions. Okay? And
wow.
how I view examinations. Yeah, I treat examinations as challenges. You know, Chinese people when they talk about examination they will be very kiasu. And honestly, I'm the one very kiasu, yes.
Oh,
So there's it.
I see. That's quite interesting to view examination as challenge or obstacle, like to break it and to utilize the knowledge in a set of paper. And I agree with the kiasu one lah. I think I'm also the kiasu type lah. Yeah.
No, oh, besar.
Oh, oh, that's the truth. I personally actually have the same feeling like I view examination also as one of the tests to examine how well did I master the chapter. And I personally feel like examination is quite the most effective way to remember the mistakes that we have made in that paper. Because if we normally do practices, right, if we make a mistake, uh, it might take some time for us to remember the mistake to not repeat it again. But if it's in examination, like what Jinjie said just now, we are kiasu. So if we make any careless mistake, we'll probably remember for life on like stupid mistakes, and I think that's quite effective to remember it lah. And also, I personally also view examination or the test that I take before SPM as a stepping stone for my SPM. So I would more emphasize and value the study input and output instead of just the grade that I'm taking. Yeah. What about Koha? What do you think about examination?
I think examination is a good way to test people on what they have learned, but I'm going to talk about two different aspects of the examination. First one is examination as a whole is a good way to really test people on how much they know about a certain thing or a certain topic. And it's also a good way to like test how a certain person is coping with, say for example, if he's a pilot or a doctor. Yes, an examination would be good to test that certain person. However, the other aspect which I'm going to talk about now is how examination is being conducted for like students. I'm only going to really mention about students because I'm still a student. I don't know about like outside in the workforce and in the university how they conduct the examination lah. But personally, I feel in schools the examination, some of the subjects are when they ask the questions in the exam is totally irrelevant to the things that we learn or the topics we learn in the textbooks. Sure, some might argue that it's because they want to test like how you use the concept of this topic and implement it in blah blah blah. But like some of the questions like it doesn't even have much relation towards what we learn in our topics. And plus, even in schools right now, your entire identity is basically based on a grade. If you get a bad grade, you are considered a quote unquote bad student, even though you didn't do anything like even though you didn't do anything bad. It's just that your grade is bad. Even if you had like good talents like outside of studying, that is completely shunned by your grade. So yeah, I think examination has a much advantage and disadvantage in these areas.
Mm. I actually also hate people judge the person's personality or the person's wholesome just by their examination grade. Actually, the result slip that we got at the end of the day doesn't determine our future path. But if you have good result, it kind of can secure and you have more way to choose. But examination has nothing done, nothing do with your personality, how you treat people surround you and stuff. Yeah,
Yes,
that's
but
quite a good point. Mm.
yeah,
Yes.
especially impacts a lot of young kids nowadays. Especially,
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
I wouldn't say now because right now, primary 1 to 3 they don't really have examinations, which is good. But in the past, like those young kids tend to get scolded like very harshly if they get a bad grade in exams.
Mm. Asian parents.
Yes, Asian parents.
And talk about this, I have one thing to share.
Mm.
I've watched a show talking about parents in China. Uh, how to say their family are quite successful, and the parents are very straightforward about their children's exam grade. For example, they don't allow their children to engage with people who have low exam grades. Like if his child's friend got a very low exam grade, like for example C or B, he said you can't go out with him or you can't go out with her. You just engage with people. You just stay with the people who have good exam grades. That's all. And this cause his children don't have any friends. Their whole life, their whole childhood, only studies and exams. It's very weird part, and I can't understand why they want to do that.
That's so terrible.
Yeah, that's terrible.
The stereotypical minded that a good great child is definitely good people to mingle with, and with low grade or kind of lemah students is bad. Is totally wrong. Like
Yeah,
we shouldn't have this mindset. Yeah, and parenting style really can affect the children for life. I guess like this children, I mean this child probably will remain the same thing that his parents or her parents taught the child until someone really correct the mindset. Yeah,
yep.
true. Okay, as we all know, Rishi is always like knows very well about philosophy and like to talk about philosophy. So, Mr. Rishi, what's your point of view on examination?
Yeah. In short, examination is the most torturous and stressful part of school.
Yeah.
Wow. I
But
can't
Wow,
listen
imagine.
to
so
me
short,
first.
lah.
Yeah, I'm very sure. I'm very sure this statement it caught everyone off guard. But let me tell you, in truth, I would not say it's torturous and the most stressful. But the thing is, in this era, we kind of see that examination is the s- and is the kind of the stone that acts as the first stepping stone if you ever want to do anything you want. As Felicia said before, right now examination kind of secures your future paths. If you want to become something, there are millions of ways to do it. But if you have the good grade from examinations, you kind of have a secured path to move forward. I'm pretty sure all of you know Socrates. Socrates said something. He said that and he said that an unexamined life is not worth living. I'm not sure how he interpreted it, but the way some people interpret it is something like this: if you have, if you do a lot of work, a lot of projects, or a lot of something you create, but if it's unexamined or it's not seen by public or seen by others, and it is not criticized by anyone, it is not worth having it. For example, if you're an artist, if you don't showcase your art, it's gone forever. It's just buried. If you are a teacher, if you don't teach people, your talent for teaching or your skill of teaching is just gone. Same thing is applied to students. As students, you are learning and you are acquiring knowledge. But if that acquiring of knowledge, if that process is not challenged or is not criticized in the form of examinations, it's no there's no much worth acquiring it. So that's how I see examination, as a way to confirm that you are actually learning so that we can see your progress.
I see. That's deep.
Thank you, thank you. I
You're
will
welcome.
take that as a compliment.
Yeah, sure.
I mean that statement.
Wow, it's quite nice to listen from like different perspective of you guys of viewing examination. Next, to provide some context, for the Malaysian educational system, the KSSM, which is the Curriculum Standard Sekolah Menengah, is the system we are implementing right now since 2017. Let's talk about our learning experiences under this KSSM system. So, to have better understanding, right, we separate the learning experience into two categories, which are the core subjects and the elective subjects. Uh, Actually, talking about the core subjects such as BM, BI, moral, sejarah, and maths, let's talk about the language subjects first. I personally think it is improved. Like in the past, I could say people used to have the tendency to memorize things such as memorize essays or having a formula or template that is that is available for any types of essay, not any types, but most of the type of essay, which makes students kind of lack of thinking how to express their real idea instead just using the template of essay that tuition teacher is teaching. So I think I would say BM and BI is become more challenging and also uh, make students to think more. I actually love the part that they test our listening and speaking skill, not only limited to writing lah, because this is what language for ma. We language is for us to write, listen, speak in order to apply in real life. Yeah, I personally actually prefer exam to test out the things that we can implement in real life. I feel like that's more beneficial for students lah. How about Junjie? What do you think about other subject or BMBI?
Yeah, for the BNBA, I strongly agree with what Felicia said. Like, the questions are designed well because they add some elements about K, but And for sejarah, let me talk about sejarah a bit. I like the sejarah content starting from Form 4 and Form 5 because I know even though there are still some weakness part because for the especially for the World War, I think later Guo can share more with us about the World War content in our sejarah textbook lah. But for me, Form 4 sejarah textbook, it mostly talks about the independence process of our country, and it is, I can say, even though it has many words, but it's still in quite simplified form. And I think because there are some graphics there are some pictures there, so it helps us to imagine the scenario and also the conditions during that time. And sejarah, it also is not only talking about our own country lah, like international, but only a bit. And I think our government, they use the sejarah subject to cultivate the semangat patriotisme dalam sanubari kita. Always we write
Wow.
in the BM kebat questions, well, and the sejarah kebat questions always want us to write this. But I think the ways of designing the questions of the kebat question in sejarah, like it always this kind of like the same one, like what is
Yes.
it, nilai like it loses the characteristics of kebat because it always like the same nilai keberanian, nilai kebijaksanaan. I think they can design more about, for example, what is the intention of this country to do that, to implement this policy, and this is out of the syllabus in our textbook. Maybe we can set up more questions like this. Let us think more deeply. Yeah. Other than the nilai questions lah, maybe can design more like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, for the moral part, I think uh I don't touch much because I think moral part is the most important one is want us to become a person with a very high moral quality and become a good people. So for the moral part, I think I let my other podcasters to talk about. Yeah, that's me. That's all.
I think Rishi is very capable in talking about moral subject.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, because he's a perfect student.
Wow. I actually somehow agree with the point of view from Junjie. Like especially the sejarah kebat question. I think besides of asking any other type of question, right? What can enhance more is actually I do really hope that teacher uh can not really, I mean, teacher can reduce the expectation of getting like certain answer. Instead, teacher can encourage students to think out of the box because normally when we are solving or answering a KBAT question, right, the answer is only uh, that number of question. I mean, the question only have that number of answer, and the answer is
Yep.
all similar. Yeah, so maybe the problem is not in the question. Maybe teacher can have less expectation of getting like the similar answer and encourage students to write again and again, but instead try to find other answer that is true, relevant, and creative, critical. Yeah. Rishi, do you have any perspective on moral
No, no, no.
subject?
I'm pretty sure Goha is going to condemn sejarah. So let him condemn first. I will come back at last as advantages because we don't have to condemn everything. I'm going to still say some good things. But
Okay.
moral I will talk about it. I will talk about moral. No
Okay,
worries.
sure. Go
And
on, come on.
because I'm very sure Goha is gonna condemn. So Goha,
Okay, so what Ginger said just now, yeah, sejarah from 4 from 5 is very informative. Most of it is talking about modern history, I would say. It's quite modern history, like everything from the 1900s all the way to the present day. Okay, one of the massive problems with sejarah in secondary school is they talk too much about. Okay, this could sound so controversial. They talk too much about Malaysia and religion. I'm going to take Form 4 syllabus for example. If you see the chapters that we have, the chapter 3, Bab 3 is talking about World War II, which I was actually excited about. But when teacher actually started explaining stuff, like our teacher just spent like what, just an hour to cover 2 pages of stuff about World War II, and even World War One is just 2-3 pages, and then after that, everything after that is all just Malaysia, Malaysia, Malaysia. It's everything else is just Malaysia, and then like World War One, World War Two just cover like what, 5 pages. Like I don't understand, and then the rest
6
is,
to 7 pages.
yeah, 6 to 7 pages, whatever. It's still like so little compared to like what all the other things that happen in the world. Like Form 4's textbook didn't even cover the Cold War. I'm not sure whether it will be covered in Form 5 lah, but will it be covered, the Cold War, in Form 5?
No.
Not really
Anyways. Anyways, I think that the textbooks explain too much in detail about Malaysia history already. So much so that it starts to neglect stuff about stuff that's happening around the world. And also, it also emphasizes a lot about politics stuff. Take for example, Bab 7 and 8. Somewhere there, I talk about independence, talk about the Pilihan Raya. All those, you talk a lot about the politics, the political structure and whatever. That's fine, but there's so much information there. Like half of those are useless in exams, and that's the examination system is just a whole another question that we're gonna cover later. But yeah, like the entire secondary school like history, like sejarah thing needs to be completely changed, because we have very limited information about what's going on in the outside world. For example, World War II, the Battle of Britain, such a famous battle, but it was not even covered, not even a single thing. The Blitzkrieg, yes, it was mentioned, but didn't really go into detail about like
There was
stuff
one word,
that happened.
Blitzkrieg. Just one word, Blitzkrieg.
Yeah, Blitzkrieg.
Yeah.
It did explain stuff, but it's not in detail. It's just like very brief,
How do you remember
go over
Blitzkrieg?
only.
Introduction only.
Yeah, just like intro to Blitzkrieg. Like, what's Blitzkrieg?
It was more like a
Yes.
definition, lah. It was more like a definition for Blitzkrieg,
Yeah.
not the intro to it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, lightning warfare. Okay, fine. And then what? Nothing else to say already. And then World War One, like the World War One is infamous for chemical warfare. Like, and then after World War One, why didn't they use chemicals anymore? Like that part is not even explained. Like the entire chemical warfare thing is not even in the textbook, as far as I know. I think I talked enough already.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I was talking about this education sejarah thing with Rishi and Yudong yesterday night.
I see.
Or
I see. Actually,
See,
instead of
Felicia, we're doing jobs.
yeah, actually instead of like change the sejarah syllabus completely, I think instead of changing the sejarah syllabus completely, maybe the better way could be delete some of the extra elaboration of the detail of things and adding more international info that students will need to know and relevant to their life. But I personally actually love the political landscape and stuff mentioned in the sejarah textbook, like the Pilihan Raya, because it's actually our voting right as a Malaysian. And one good news, the Undi 18 actually got approved like next year January, then the 18 years old pengundi can start mengundi already. Yay.
Hip
Yeah.
hip hooray!
Good news.
It's a long
Cool.
war.
Very cool. Yeah.
And I personally think another suggestion is actually we can separate our sejarah syllabus into two, which
Mm.
is world history and also the local history. Like
Oh.
we the thing is we need to balance them. We can't like Malaysia history too much
Yeah,
compared
too
to
deeply.
compared to the world history, because like the world history we learn, I think only like 5 to 10% for the out of our syllabus. And I
Mm.
think maybe can do like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we'll have more exams.
Yeah, but we can
Yeah.
like try to simplify them but add
Mm.
more content.
Yeah, yeah. I actually support with the idea like having local and international history. Yeah. For us to learn. Now I'm wondering like what Rishi is going to say about moral subject. Go ahead, Rishi.
Okay, let's talk about moral. Hmm. Okay, as far as syllabus goes, I am okay with the syllabus because, as Junjie said earlier, it's about shaping the students to become better humans in the future with high moral values and stuff. I agree with that. So as far as the textbook goes, the syllabus, I'm okay with it. But when it comes to examinations,
There's not enough K-but questions in there.
okay, that's one part of it. Moral, right now we have some things that they are factual from straight from textbook. For example, the definitions or some explanation to few terms that we have to get from our textbook. Aside from that, we have essay questions. These essay questions are the one that I am not completely satisfied with because of the structure. For example, in our essay questions, if we give 1 point, we have to give multiple reasonings for it. For
Yeah.
example, if you give point A, you have to give one, two, three huraian just for that 1 point. And then even the point huraian is quite acceptable because it trains us to give more reasons for just one single point. I agree with that. It has its current in Malay. But we also have a news thing. I'm not sure for everyone, but just for our district, we have to have the introduction and the outro for
Yes.
the structured questions. Okay, of course, it's beneficial to train students for Karangan for BM essays, but in the whole, I do not see the actual
Benefit.
value of it,
Yes.
actual benefit of it.
Because
Of
like
course, it's helpful, but for random questions, just having that intro outro without having anything crucial to do with the main content, it doesn't sit right with me. Okay, that's all the condemning for the examination.
oh I'm
I have a
starting.
few
Oh
things.
wait. I'm not done yet.
Yeah, do you have
I'm
something?
still not done with Sejarah yet. We get on to that later.
Wow.
All
Come on,
right.
man.
Okay,
Yes,
but
moral. I, I don't really feel like why they really need for essay questions. I mean, if they really want to test our moral values, maybe ask K-but questions. That's the only real way to really test our moral values. You can write like subjective questions, like what will you do
like give
in
us
this case? Blah
situations.
blah blah blah. Yes, give us
Ah,
situations. But having an essay questions to have like a what's that? The intro and outro is doesn't really make sense.
it makes models feel more like BM.
Yeah, it
Mm.
does.
Yeah,
It
and
gives
even longer.
Yes. Longer.
I
There's so
have
much.
to say, my ringkasan is are much shorter than my model essay questions,
Yes.
essay
True,
answers.
true.
There's no real like benefit to it. It's just useless, like what Rishi just said. But moral, you just write the answer like what you're gonna do, blah blah blah. Can already lah.
For me lah, actually, in fact, moral is never a textbook thing. Moral is something like we implement in real life, and moral is
Life.
not an easy subject to teach actually. Yeah.
Yes. And the first person to teach us is our parents.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Charity starts at home.
And so
Likewise
another,
for moral values.
yeah,
Pendidikan bermula di rumah.
yeah,
Hmm.
another thing to really improve moral, like how teachers teach moral, is instead of just solely based off textbook, they can like play like videos of different scenarios and ask us like what would you do in this scenario, and what are the you know things that we can do.
Yeah, that's much useful.
Wow, that's really, really eye-opening. Seriously, never thought about that.
Yep, in a good way. Yeah.
Because humans, we do not act the same way as each other. That could be
Mm.
useful. Okay, now I have a few things to comment. For comment as with a D, yeah? Like to praise our examination from changing from KBSM to KSSM. Okay, before anything, my mother is a tutor. Because of that, I have an experience with both the KBSM system and the KSSM system. KBSM is a system that we had before KSSM. So I have seen the transformation from KBSM to KSSM very clearly. So for example, for BM, as Felicia mentioned earlier, the essays have become more intellectual, where we have to think differently for every given topic. But I would say that BM has gotten way easier in terms of anything except for essays. For example, our syntaxis and the penyuntingan bahasa. Penyuntingan bahasa is difficult, but it's much easier compared to KBSM, where they had 40 objective questions. 40 objective questions may seem like an easy task, but trust me, it has every part, every aspect they have learned in BM compiled into 40 questions. So in that way, I would appreciate our examination getting much easier and more productive in a way. And then the next one, English. English is one of the languages that went a tremendous change when KBSM converted to KSSM.
Yeah.
From 40 objective questions, they made it into simpler chunks where we have, for example, matching gap text. Matching gap text is easier compared to going through 40 objective questions. And then lastly, the one Junjie was saying about talking about sejarah, where they included the K-bar questions. And teachers even agree that K-bar questions were made so that students who are weaker in academics can get marks. Yes, right.
Yeah.
Because the answers are quite repetitive. For example, as you said, nilai keberanian dan nilai patriotisme, berjuang sehingga mati, berputih tulang, and then everything, right? So the answers are quite repetitive, and the answers are there, just there. If you just put in a lot of answers, there is a high chance that you will get the correct answer. So as examination converted from KBSM to KSSM, it got easier, but it is not good enough. It can be better. That's what we are trying to imply from through this episode.
True.
Thank you, Menteri Pelajaran Dr. Rishi.
Terima kasih.
Okay.
Okay.
Originally the
Wait.
third question was about what do we think about the examination system in Malaysia, but we mostly covered it already in the
Yeah.
previous question, right?
I think we can mention about our costs compared to other country, other advanced country, or Chinese independent school.
Yeah, but before that, I'm gonna keep my promise. All right. Sejarah in exam okay, what Rishi just now said, I'm gonna carry on what Rishi just said. Yes, there's these K-part questions to help students. But if you see these K-part questions compare it with Bahasa Melayu and Pendidikan Moral, like they're almost similar. Like the way you answer it is very similar between these three subjects. Which
Yeah,
personally
I strongly agree with you.
which personally I find like it sort of defeats the purpose for K-part, but obviously it helps people get marks. So I don't think many people would disagree with K. But sejarah, um, sejarah is a subject where you need to memorize, which is not fun at all. Like sejarah, history is a very fun subject to learn about, especially like World War history. I love learning about World War history. But the main thing that really discourage people to not learn sejarah, especially in Malaysia, is you have to memorize in order to get marks. One of the ways to really improve our understanding of history is to make history a subject where you learn instead of memorize stuff just for the sake of exam. Because ever since I've been in Form 4, almost every lesson I hear our teacher say, okay, this question will come out in SPM. This question will come out like that in SPM. This one will come out in SPM. I'm not condemning our teacher. Our teacher is a great teacher, but the education system itself is already changing the way how we learn. Instead of learning stuff, we're learning just for the sake of SPM. Yeah, that's a very big problem for sejarah.
Yeah, talking about the format of exams and education stuff, I just wanted to share with you guys a quote that I found quite inspiring for me. Something, uh, education is not the learning of facts, but training the mind to think. Yeah. So I think instead of just putting facts into our brain and just purely memorizing, it's more practical for us to think, to learn.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's very deep. That's very, very deep.
thanks. I'm wondering, what do you think about uh, our learning curriculum if compared to other country or other vernacular school curriculum like Chinese independent school, Junjie?
So as as compared to like countries like China and Singapore, the level of their subjects, especially for the maths and science, is comparatively higher than us. For example, my my cousin, when she was like year 5 and already from 1, she already learned the electromagnetic wave, that that thing, like something relates to physics. But the first the first day I was exposed to this in the textbook I was during my form 3. So you can see there's a big gap there for our education level, and also with advanced country like Singapore. And also for in the language subjects like countries, China, I think they introduce a lot of, how to say, the theories, like how to say in English. Let me think.
Ideology.
Yeah, the ideologies. Yes, the ideology. A lot of ideologies that they'll need to learn, and this is not being taught in Malaysia. For example, they maybe they will teach what is liberalism. Yeah, but this is not being taught in Malaysia. Yeah.
I see. Actually, this is quite true. Like, if compare our syllabus to vernacular school, I have a friend studying in Chinese independent school, Funyu, in JB. He shared with me his exam paper. Wow, the exam paper, their normal maths is actually learning our maths stuff in the first chapter. Like the basic thing of maths is our maths. It's a national curriculum of maths, which I think their maths and science, like what Jinjia mentioned, is really higher level than us.
Yep.
And even
Yeah,
English as well. Singapore English and Malaysia English, there's a very big difference in it.
yeah, true.
It is super big. It's super big. I agree with Guahao. I once took from a year 4, not from form 4, year 4 book. just a year 4 English book. The objectives, first page was okay, second page was okay, third page I was struggling.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Year
Year
4
four,
book,
year
year
four
4
book
book,
for us it's like a form 1, form 2 type of questions already.
Wow.
that was
But,
one word, lexicon in year 4 book.
well,
What's
It's,
lexicon?
it's a dictionary, it's a name for dictionary, and it was in a year 4 book. And then, moreover, there was even a word something like satchel, different types of containers name was written down in year 4 book. I was genuinely surprised.
Wow, really advanced.
And I also think that during primary school, during our time in primary school, uh, English subject wasn't really emphasized on speaking. So that's why you see a lot of
yeah,
people
yeah,
struggling a lot
True.
right now in
yep,
speaking
yep, yep, yep.
English.
Agree.
Yeah, and my English teacher even pronounced vegetable as uh vegetable, always like that. I still remember very clearly. I say, is it vegetable? Um,
that is that's I think some of the Chinese will really like vegetable. Yeah.
Jay, I pray for you that your teacher doesn't listen to this podcast.
she won,
Oh,
she won.
I'm pretty sure she forgot about it
luckily I
already.
see. Oh, I see.
Actually, the
Yeah,
thing is, speaking a language just comes from situation you are in.
yeah, the environment matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously, the only reason I'm speaking English because I came to Menengah school. That's the only
Mm.
reason I'm speaking English.
Yeah, and the only reason I speaking Malay also when it comes to the government school,
Mm,
secondary school.
true, very true.
I see. Environmental factor influence our language speaking.
There's
Yeah.
no other choice. But there's only one language they can understand, so you have to speak.
Mm. Especially English is international language. What most of the people can understand it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the English subject should be emphasized more.
True. That's quite a fantastic sharing from three of you guys, and I'm really glad to know you guys' perspective on exam, and it definitely widened my horizon. So maybe we could do an episode about the techniques for our exam preparation, like it's specific for preparation a few weeks or a few months before exams. So audiences, do comment down below if you're interested to listen to this episode. And by the way, guys, we actually had done an episode consisting of all of our secret tips in studying, and it's really valuable. So just go and listen right after this. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I do, and thank you everyone. Bye bye.